I love The Last of Us 1. Last of Us 1 was an instant classic. You like The Last of Us 1? Yeah, it's good formula. Joel and Ellie, that's a winning duo right there. The Last of Us 2. So The Last of Us 2, by its title, it's the sequel to The Last of Us. Last of Us came out in 2013. It was 7 years ago. Time flies. So now we have The Last of Us 2. It's 4 years later. Ellie is, it's a coming of age story for Ellie. I feel like I'm getting right into it, but spoiler free. It's gonna be really hard talking about this game with no spoilers, but that's what this video is. This is spoiler free. So I'm gonna have to do a spoiler talk for it to really dive into it. So if I'm vague about some points, apologies, but wait for the spoiler talk. So yeah, Ellie is out there. She's on a quest. You play as Ellie for half the game. Then you play as a character named Abby, and now we have The Last of Us 2, which takes place in Seattle, funny enough, so I actually had fun, because Pacific Northwest, that's me. So I had fun seeing what they got right, what looks similar, what looks different. I mean, not just different because it's destroyed and it's the apocalypse. Welcome to Chaz. Although sometimes I was like, how long has this apocalypse been going on? Because what, trees have grown in the streets? That's a bus stop. How did trees grow in the streets? Apocalypse in this game has been going on for 20 years. It looks more like 200. But I digress. It actually does look very similar to the Seattle Convention Center, though that should be the Cheesecake Factory right there. But I get it, licensing issues. Feel like we're getting a little off track here. Point is, you play as Ellie and a new character named Abby. And now enter a lot of what's very similar in terms of gameplay from The Last of Us 1. If you played The Last of Us 1, you can jump right into the gameplay. It's not exact though. New mechanic, you get to go prone now to hide from enemies. I'm glad they implemented a mechanic that Metal Gear 2 had in 1990. It's pretty much the same, but bigger and longer, so a lot more walking around and scrounging for parts. That actually did get old. Usually I talk about what I liked in the game, what I didn't, but since we're on the subject, yeah, going around opening drawers and scrounging for parts is most of what you do in this game. Again, I know you did that in the first one, but maybe that's wise, because it's like, I did that in the first one, now I'm doing it in here, and at a point, I was like, I am done scrounging for garbage. But I kept doing it. I don't know if it was just because I was conditioned, or I actually wanted to upgrade my stuff. But I was at a point, I was like, I just want to kill monsters and get to the end of the story. Which I don't think it's necessarily good for a game to evoke that kind of response to the gamer gaming in the world, but that's what happened. Got a little tedious at parts, but I'm telling you, the graphics in this game, we're in the final time frame of this console generation, so they know how to make it look like business. The Last of Us 2 does look like business. And with that comes the atmosphere and the tone. That's really what I love most about The Last of Us. It's Resident Evil, which The Last of Us 1 came out when Resident Evil turned into action games. Capcom was like, no, people like action. They don't like survival horror anymore. And The Last of Us was like, hey, hate to tell you you're wrong, but you are. And now Resident Evil's gone back to survival horror. So it looks like Resident Evil, it looks like The Last of Us. It's survival horror with great atmosphere, great tone. Some of these monsters just kind of scurry across the ground and stalk you, and all you have is your flashlight down this dingy ass hallway. Looks like Silent Hill shit a hotel, and now you're in it. If for nothing else, gameplay wise, it's a fun stealth game. It's just really fun going around stealth killing enemies. Sure, they're idiots a lot of the time and they lack any sense of peripheral vision, but Ellie's probably better known to the locals as Baba Yaga because holy shit, her body count is business. I just felt badass going around stealth killing douchebags, although this one's bullshit. That's a headshot. I don't care how big you are. How the fuck? Well, whatever. And fuck you, dick. There's one scene in particular, one of these fights where you gotta push the button at the right time and dodge and attack, and this thing gets messy, it gets nasty. And by the end, you have the answer to that question.
I wanna know how I got these scars.
I know now. I do know the answer to that, Joker, because I played The Last of Us 2. Long story short, I really enjoy my time in the world of The Last of Us, and that's where we come to that double-edged sword kind of thing. Whereas Ellie's story is much more linear, going from point A to point B. Abby's story is the story that actually takes me around and lets me see more of this world I so enjoy, which I feel like there might have been some skillful manipulation right there in order to have you accept this new character and want to play as Abby, because right out the gate, Abby's kind of starting out on the wrong foot with you because Abby did a bad thing. Spoiler free. Wait for the spoiler talk. So I feel like there was a very conscious effort to go, okay, Ellie's story, a little more linear, just going from point A to point B. Abby, we get to see more of the world. It's a little more interesting. The world you see through Abby's eyes is more interesting. It has more to do with the different factions and the conflicts among them. I really dug that, but I feel like they were very consciously like, okay, we'll make Abby's quest a little more interesting with the world than Ellie's is. Also, we'll make Abby a little more personable than Ellie. I mean, I thought Ellie's relationship with her girlfriend, that was sweet, but in the end, I'm like, why is this girl dating Ellie? I mean, because Ellie's just, I get it, she has a lot on her shoulders, but as much as you want to converse when you're out there on a quest, she doesn't really. She's that person who gives like 2-word answers. She's Corbin Dallas on Ruby Rod's show.
So tell me, my man, you nervous in the service?
Not really.
But Abby's very personable. You can hang out with Abby. And I think that was very consciously done. We're like, we'll make Abby more interesting than Ellie. Also make her world more interesting than the world you see with Ellie. Bam, there you go. You have no choice but to accept Abby now. That's not to say I don't like Ellie. I'm already attached to Ellie because of the first game. So this game being Ellie's quest, I was there for that. I actually enjoyed the fact that Ellie's coming into her own and it's actually her quest. She's not in anyone's shadow. I think that needed to happen with Ellie. I don't think it needed to happen the way it happens. They could have had Ellie go out on her own quest in one of a metric fucktillion ways. They chose this one. But regardless, in Ellie coming into her own, this being her coming of age story, you feel it. She's brash, she's flawed, but she takes the hits and quite literally has the bruises to show it, as you see. There's one scene where she takes her shirt off and you're like, you are beaten up. Which, say what you want about the catalyst that starts her out on her quest, and I understand. The point is, when she's out there on her quest, it's blood, sweat, and tears. And credit where credit's due, I appreciate that. However, not only does the game feel a little tedious and you scrounging for trinkets and trash to make gear and bombs and get pills to get upgrades, but the game kind of feels uneven. You play as Ellie's arc, and that arc is coming to a head, and then halfway through the game, it's like, all right, now you're Abby. And it kind of feels like it does this Control-Alt-Delete of momentum. The momentum's climbing with Ellie, and then boom, you're back at the beginning. I mean, not Ellie's beginning, but now it's Abby's story. But you'd start out having to search for gear again and get gun upgrades again. It's kind of like, imagine you go through 3 days of an event, doing something, whatever it is you pick. And then after day 3, you wake up. It was all a dream. You gotta do it again. Kind of felt like that. It just, you feel the momentum just grind to a halt. I get why they're doing it though. They're doing it for reasons I can't really touch on here. But the reasons, the concepts, it's not as new I feel like they think it is. I mean, the questions they want the audience, the gamer to ask and experience, these are age-old questions that have been in countless movies and plays, books, TV shows. It doesn't quite stick the landing for me. I felt like I was playing The Last of Us 3. Like there's an entire other game out there that took place in between 1 and 2 that I just missed. In the end, it's like the director of The Last of Us 2, Neil Druckmann, said, like, yeah, I'm expecting this to divide the fan base. I feel like I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like that, which is always, it's a funny thing when I hear that. Only in entertainment can you hear someone be like, yeah, I'm totally cool with just 50% of people saying, nah, fuck that. I get doing things that where you're like, yeah, that'll take a small hit, but being cool with 50 is just crazy. But he is not wrong, and I feel like this could have actually worked out better for me personally anyway. There are a lot of people out there who love this game. I myself enjoyed things about it, but I enjoyed The Last of Us 1 more. Just maybe I'm just a traditionalist. I just fundamentally think The Last of Us 1 was in the pocket. It was just a tighter story. That said, the graphics are great. The atmosphere is really good survival horror. The world looks gorgeous, if not destroyed. The battle mechanics I enjoyed. The scrounging gets a little tedious. And in the end, I felt the ending was just a bit anticlimactic to me. It just was. For the ending, it's not just that it's long, it's long-winded. You know, like it's a speech that someone has and they're talking forever and you're like, all right, you made your point, and then they keep talking and you're like, all right, your point just kind of got lost. That's the ending to The Last of Us 2. At a point, if it just cut right there, but like, that's the end, it would have been fine. Then it went on for so long, I was like, all right, now I'm kind of not buying this. You'll either enjoy it just fine or hate it entirely because of a direction it takes at a point. pretty early on. There's enjoyment in here gameplay-wise, so I'll say it's worth buying at sale price. All right, that's the spoiler-free stuff. On to the spoiler review. That'll come around Friday-ish. I don't know, Friday, weekend. You know the worst thing about this game, seriously, like the thing I had the hardest time with was killing the dogs. Like, there are dogs that can sniff out your trail. You gotta take the dogs out. I hated it. That was the worst part of the entire game. Neil Druckmann is a cat person. That's what I learned. I actually respect how dark and real that shit was, but still. Poor dogs. All right, so The Last of Us 2, have you played it? What did you think about it? No spoilers in the comment section, please. I feel like I'm asking for it. Actually, I'll just tell people if you don't want spoilers, stay away from this comment section. Wait for the spoiler talk. I feel like most of you good people out there, you won't put spoilers in the comment section, but there's always people out there just trying to ruin the party. That said, the spoiler is dumb, but what did you think about it? Whatever you thought, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.